Welcome to Talking Events. Today's episode is being recorded down in Bristol at the offices of Richmond Event Management. Delighted that we welcome to the studio Mike Richmond. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And alongside Mike, Ben Hardy. Ben, welcome to Talking Events.
Afternoon.
It's going to be a quick one today because Ben is disappearing off to a committee meeting for this for next year's.
It's our annual debrief with our client for the International Balloon Fiesta here in Bristol. So. Summing up all the various debrief meetings we've had with police and local authorities and starting to think about the key things we need to do for next year. Perfect.
Well, we'll not keep you. This is pressing stuff and important stuff. Let's look at a couple of questions for this episode. Well, maybe just a subject, the health of the industry. Mike, you've been in the industry a long time now. And I understand from listening to a session that you delivered a few weeks ago at a conference that you actually started in local authority. So You've had experience right across the board. What's the health of the industry like now from an event management point of view?
I think it's healthier than when I started in local authority, without a doubt. I think that it's a bit like the state of the nation. It's really quite healthy. There's a huge amount of events taking place compared to what there used to be. The production industry, the services industry, they're all working together, raising their game. You go to the sort of 3 or 4 big shows that sell the industry over the year, and whilst you might see a lot of the same faces, the general feeling is that it's strong. It went through a few dips. It's gone through a few dips over that 20 years. But I think it's now punching at its weight again, and it helps with major national events and certainly big regional events. And underneath that, there's all a load of community events. So, I'd say it's probably as strong as it's been in my 20 years of running REM.
Ben, anything? Your thoughts on the industry as it stands at the moment, from the perspective that you have?
Well, I actually started my career on a work placement with Mike back in 2000, and it took me. I went off and worked in the charity sector for about 10 years, and it took me that long to persuade him to have me back properly in employment. Whether he's regretting it now, I don't know. But
a second interview was 10 years later.
But certainly, my time since joining REM in 2010. We used to finish the Balloon Fiesta in August and draw some breath and prepare for the Christmas months, but we've not stopped since, and I think that's been building year on year in recent years. So I'd say it's very strong.
The next subject, or what we want to move on to today, is the procurement process. Mike, I think this is a subject that you may have various opinions of, and working across a range of different events and with experience working in different scenarios and in different countries as well. Tell us about your thoughts on the procurement process at the moment and what people are doing wrong, what they're doing right, what we could do better.
Okay, well, we obviously as a company, we must have done thousands of tenders over the 20 years for us to provide services. So there's 2 sides to it. It's people providing services to us and us providing services to clients. And it's a fairly varied game at the moment in terms of what comes through the door from whatever portal, whichever supplier wants to use a portal, and whichever procurement company are sending it. The difficulty is with events is that it's hard to say what you want in procurement. Unless you want 360,000 toilet rolls. As an event organisation, you want the toilet rolls, but you want the toilets, you want this, you want that, you want some creative programming or whatever. And sometimes you get the feeling that tender documents are written so open-mindedly that you don't really know whether you stand a chance or not. Quite often the specifications are not written by the officers that want to write the specifications. They're written by the procurement company. So I find it frustrating in many respects. I find some brilliant ones out there that do nail it, and then there's ones that don't actually exist, which is where an authority has got delegation not to go out to tender. So it is a varied thing. It can be very frustrating, and it's a lot of work, unpaid work. You don't get any money if you're not successful. And sometimes, probably the most galling part of that, and I think Ben would agree with me, is you don't even get a response to your tender. And we've been through some fairly monumental tenders over the years where we've spent hours and hours and hours putting something together and not to get a response. I mean, that's outrageous.
And of course, time is money, isn't it? So ultimately, that's cost you money to do that.
And if you speak to my peers, and I speak to quite a lot of them, and some of them don't even bother tendering anymore because it's too arduous a process. We do, because it's our core business. I suppose it's a bit like when people said, "Can you start writing risk assessments?" Everybody, "Oh God, I've got to write a risk assessment." Now they all have to. But it's the same with tenders. That some people just won't do them and rely on other organisations to get them work once they've won it. So it's an industry in its own right now, procurement, and sometimes I feel sometimes that it's where good ideas come to die. Procurement.
If you could change it for the better, how would you change it, or what would you like to change, or can it be changed?
I don't think it can. I think Local Government Act and various other legislations mean you go out to tender for certain contracts. I don't think it can change. I think specifications are one or two things that are either open-minded with very little detail, or they're very detailed because they're just taking the detail off the guy that was doing it before. So there's very little in between, to be honest. I don't think it can change. I think perhaps the only thing that could change is that the officers that are organising the events that are after these services write the tenders and do the interviewing and so on and so forth. And I think that would help. I don't know if I speak for the rest of. Sounds like I'm having a grumble, but the hours.
That's what we're here for.
The hours that we spend doing them doesn't necessarily translate into the value of the contract once you've put it in. Well,
let's find out if it's a shared opinion. If you listen to the podcast and you're currently on the Event Industry News website, there is a comment box below the video that you're looking at, or below the audio file that you're listening to. Log in and leave your comments. We'd love to hear from people about their various experiences of the procurement process. So get some comments on there. Without flipping this now into an interview, Ben, and turning it into Piers Morgan's life stories. The 10-year hiatus, if we could call it that, from your initial contact with REM and coming back in, what is your background in terms of event management prior to that? Did you study event management? Did you have was there a desire to come into it as an industry? How did you find yourself doing what you do now?
Yeah, I actually I left sixth form with an interest in theatre and music for some reason, but played an instrument very badly and couldn't really act, so ended up in what I thought was the next best thing. And actually, in those days, there were very few event management degrees. I think Bournemouth, Derby did something, Bath did something quite peculiar, and I ended up in De Montfort studying arts management for 3 years. Did a great placement of a Haymarket Theatre. Finished my final year doing a 12 weeks stint here at REM. I'm from Bristol originally, so and then actually oddly enough got a job at the Balloon Fiesta here in Bristol for a summer just as a student, and then for probably a year or so freelanced a little bit. Got in for some reason, ended up working on a lot of horse shows. I don't know why, but and then actually realised that I needed to pay off the student loan, so got a job for a charity, and spent 10 years in charity on fundraising events predominantly, and then obviously came back here.
The reason I ask is that in a previous episode of the podcast, we spoke to a guest from the University of Westminster and their event management faculty, and also a lady from a recruitment agency that deals with placing and sourcing jobs within the event industry. And it's fair to say on that particular episode there were some mixed views as to what credibility a degree or some sort of formal qualification in event management can actually give, and whether or not that's actually going to open up more possibilities to people coming out of education. There are also, I think, something... I looked at the stat the other week. There's a vast number of universities now doing multiple types of event management degrees. So potentially we're going to be flooded with graduates coming out...
As I understand it, there's 7,500 people on degree courses studying event management in one form or another in the creative industries. And I think the stats said there's 800 jobs. If you look at it, from our company perspective, most of the full-timers we've kept have come as placement students, but not necessarily on event management degree courses. So if you walk into our office, you'll see 4 people there that came as placement students on a university placement that were kept on full-time. And in fact, Ben was a placement student. He's now the senior ops director of the company. He's studying arts management, so kind of related. I think my view is that whilst I don't want to argue with event management degrees, when I've been to faculties and discussed them, I think it's a grounding, but I always say to people, get your hands dirty, get in there, get your placement, build some stages, or move some fencing, or work the long hours that it takes and see if you like it.
Yeah.
Because it's a demanding industry.
We certainly wouldn't ever go out. We've spoken about it a bit, and there's been quite a lot of articles that have been on Event Industry News as well over the years about the subject of event management and people studying it. And I think collectively it's obviously a good thing for people to get an education, but sure. I think that there is this feeling among the industry that it is important to get the hands dirty ultimately and to build some actual experience in that.
I don't have a degree in event management. I'm a PE teacher by my degree, but I'm not playing tennis at the moment or teaching anything.
So you're the quickest man across any event site.
Not anymore.
Before we move on to sort of a next little snippet, what attributes would you be looking for in somebody coming to you to get into the industry?
Primarily, will you fit the culture of the organisation? Are you prepared to work hard? Are you prepared to learn quickly? And when it's all hands to the pump, are you there helping or are you running away? And I think that's they're the vital statistics for me. And I've seen a lot of people that have come and gone, not necessarily in our organisation, but do a summer's work on events, you don't see them again because it's such hard work. And there's a hell of a lot. It's very easy for people to say, I want to get into events. I don't think any of us really started off wanting to get into events, but when we got there, we realised it's such a rewarding industry that you have to put the work in to be retained. And most of our work is retention work. We don't do a great deal of promotion. It's recommendation and retention. Fitting into the culture of the organisation is critical. And because there are times where you're a little army, mm-hmm. And if you're a battalion, you need all your soldiers pulling in the right direction. If there's one weak link, it won't last, I'm afraid. So that's very much how I view it. Degree-wise, some of them are great, and there are some fantastic degree courses, and then there's others that perhaps might be teaching the wrong kind of syllabus, but.
Maybe that's something to continue with you on another day. Ben, I'm conscious that you've got to get off to your debrief. If I can ask you very quickly,
sure.
What's on the subject of what's on the agenda for the debrief tonight? What sort of things are you going to be looking at?
Well, it's quite a standard agenda, but obviously finances will be a predominant one for the directors.
Top of the list.
Did they break even? Make any money? Make a loss? Obviously, we've got some good news for them on that one. Which is a relief. We had a very busy fiesta this year. We've seen an increase, I think, of those people staying in the UK, particularly during the summer holidays, enjoying a free event like the Balloon Fiesta. So we've got to do a little bit of work around crowd management going forward next year. So there's a bit of a discussion there, and then some simple sort of housekeeping, if you like, election of a new chair and all that sort of stuff.
Brilliant. Well, again, I'm conscious of time. I'm conscious that you've come in here almost underprepared. Somebody just grabbed you by the collar and said, "Come in and sit in today's podcast." So we thank you for that, and we'll wrap up today. Mike Richmond, thanks very much for joining us again.
Thank you.
Ben Hardy, good luck with the debrief and good luck for next year's event.
Thanks a lot.
And once again, you've been listening to Talking Events. Don't forget you can download the podcast from iTunes. Just search for Talking Events. You can listen to it via the Event Industry News website. You can also watch a video recording of today's episode via the Event Industry News YouTube channel. Thanks again, and this is Talking Events.